All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We are on. All right. We'll figure it. Let's talk about it after. I just want to make sure we're moving. But thank you. We'll figure something out. So okay. So we are in the first section, chapter 1. Os Beis, the second piece. Okay, so I think I'm the only one using the actual Derech Hashem, but that's okay. So he says like this. See, this is actually before we actually jump into this piece, it's worth noting that there are two different approaches, classically speaking, about how to come to a knowledge of God. There is the Rambam, who talks about the fact that we have to use philosophical proofs. That is one side to this question. He says that the way we understand God, the way we know about God, is using philosophy. It's where Mor Nevuchim spends a lot of time demonstrating proofs, Rabbeinu Bechaya later on, and others use this same approach. And then most famously, but there are many others, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is the one who argues that instead of actual knowledge, we have experience. We have experience. We know God through experience. He's not referring to our day-to-day experience, although that might be an extension of what he's talking about. What he's talking about is the experience at Har Sinai, where the Jewish people experience God. They didn't prove God's existence through proofs, but rather they know God. They know God because they saw him, and then they passed it on from generation to generation, right? And you have these two different opinions as to which one is the way that we know God. Some saying that you pull out a chalkboard or whatever, a whiteboard, and you basically demonstrate philosophical or mathematical proofs, the Rambam, and Rabbi Yehuda Levi says no, experience, right? In other words, according to Rabbi Yehuda Levi, is like the way he would say it is, how do I know that that my 5-year-old daughter is alive, right? How do I know that she exists? I know she exists because I just poured her a bowl of cereal before I came here, right? I don't need to actually prove to you mathematically that she exists. I experienced it, right? I don't see her right now. Okay, logic will dictate that, God willing, she's still around, right? I mean, I saw her a minute ago, so same idea, right? So basically, that's the idea. We experienced Hashem at Har Sinai. The later commentators neatly distinguish between raya, which means proof, and re'iyah, which means literally to see, but the idea is to experience, right? So those are the classically two different approaches. Let's see what the what the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, has to say about knowledge of God and which approach he takes. So let's read Os Beis. He says like this: Otzorach sheyeda, we have to know Shamatzoi hazeh, that this being, Yisbarach Shemo, blessed be his name, in amitas mitzi uso museges zulaso klal. Okay, he says the real essence of who he is, of what he is, we don't really get. We don't really comprehend God. We have to accept the fact that whenever we're going to describe God, and we're going to do so in a little bit, this section of the Ramchal is a little bit shorter. It's a little bit harder to get through. It's a little bit abstract. And he's letting us know before we get into it, it's a little abstract. We don't really understand God. We don't really understand what God is. We certainly don't understand his essence. V'rak zeh nodabo. This is what we do know. Shu matzoi shalem. That God is complete. He is perfect. B'chol minei shlemus. In all forms of perfection. V'lo nimtza bo chisarn klal. There's no deficiency. Okay? So what we do know, we don't know the true essence of God. What we do know is that he is perfect. Okay? V'ulam, however, dvarim ela yidana b'kabbalah min ha'avos imin hanavim. This we do know from a tradition, all the way from the forefathers and the prophets. V'sigum kol Yisrael b'mamad Har Sinai. And all the Jewish people understood this when they stood at Har Sinai. V'amdu al mitasam bevir, and they stood and they really had complete clarity. V'limdum livneim dar achar dar kiyam hazeh, and this was passed on from generation to generation till this day. Shekain siva Moshe Rabbeinu alav Hashem pi hagvura. This is what Moshe told the Jewish people from Hashem. Pentishkach hasdvarim asher rominecha, that lest you forget the things which your eyes saw. V'odatim livnei v'necha, and you shall let this be known to your descendants. In other words, through Ma'amad Har Sinai, that's how we, as the people, knew about Hashem. It sounds like he's going like Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. However, he says, Gam mitzad hachakira b'movsim halimudiyam yamsu kol inyanim ha'ela. It's true that we could also understand this from logic. And he says, V'yuchach hayosam came mikoach and imtzos masigem asher nachnu rom beidino al pi hachachmas hateva andas hatchuna shar chachmos. And he says we could also use all different forms of logic, physics, astronomy, etc., to prove God's existence. Okay? Then he said, basically what he's doing is basically taking from both approaches. The Ramchal is both a mystic and a philosopher. He is both a mystic and a bit of a rationalist. So he says, on the one hand, we know about God from our experience. At the same time, it's something that we could also prove from demonstrable proofs. And then he says, we're not going to elaborate on this too much. We're just going to say some basic principles, which we're going to continue with tomorrow. I would just point. So one thing, just to understand, Ramchal is basically almost merging two worlds: the world of philosophy, the world of mysticism, the world of logic, the world of experience. Okay, but it's also worth just highlighting the fact that the only way, if you're coming at God, if you're coming to this proof of God from logical proofs, okay, but if we're coming to an understanding of God through experience and through tradition, it just highlights and elevates to us the importance of the strength, the connection between parent and child, right? If we are going to recognize that our entire faith is predicated, at least according to one of his approaches, through experience, the only way that's going to work, guess what? You and I, we're not at our Sinai, and our children, we're not at our Sinai, right? So how are we going to be able to pass on this tradition to the next generation? The only way that's going to work is if we create a relationship which is so full of trust, so full of honesty, so full of integrity, that what we say to that next generation is going to be able to go on. And if we don't, then it's not just, if we disappoint or fall short or don't live up to the trust, it's not just like, okay, we failed as parents in some way, that we let our child down. Our entire faith is predicated on our ability to create a sense of trust, so that we're able to, therefore the messages that we pass on to the next generation are able to be believed by that next generation. Okay, we'll stop over here and we'll pick up with this, God willing, tomorrow.